Welcome back to Fast Money. In the past month, the markets have hit record high after high, but there has been one surprising loser over that time. Breaking it down is a man who's always a winner, at least in our eyes, Dom Chu.
I can't believe how much winning is happening on this show right now, Melissa. But if you thought only winners emerged from Bitcoin trading, you haven't been watching the price action over the last month or so, because Bitcoin has been a loser, especially when you look relative to other asset classes that, actually give you a claim on an asset or, say, a stream of income or actually have a physical quality to them. Now we all know that cryptocurrencies are volatile and quoting performance information is subject to significant change. We've seen the SIBO Bitcoin futures fall by around 20% over the course of the last month-ish. Meanwhile, other things that you mine for, like gold, up 5% in that same time frame, up 5%. Oil prices up 10%, and the stock market as a whole, measured by the S&P 500, is actually up around 4%. Within the stock market itself, the hottest sector over the last year, technology up around 4% as well, as measured by that SPDR Tech Sector ETF, the ticker XLK. The price action in Bitcoin is serving as a reminder to some folks out there that trafficking in crypto is not without risk of loss, and we're not even talking about some of the bigger losses we've seen in other digital coins like, say, Ripple. So, Melissa, a lot of movement happening here on Bitcoin relative to other asset classes. Back over to you.
All right. Thanks, Dom. Dom Chu in the newsroom. And if you're worried about the Bitcoin fall, don't be. Our next guest called the rally in Bitcoin this fall, and now he's back with another bold call in the cryptocurrency. Fundstrat's Tom Lee joins us now. Tom, Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Happy New Year.
What's your next call for Bitcoin?
Well, I think there's a lot of concerns recently about Bitcoin being off its highs. I think it's a really healthy consolidation. And at the same time, I don't think investors have fled blockchain. I think we sent some materials over to show you the different sort of token sizes, and the mid-caps have almost tripled in the same time that Bitcoin's consolidated. So I think it's a really healthy rotation taking place.
So where do you see Bitcoin going, and do you think that is the coin that will have the greatest return in 2018?
Well, number one, I think the use case for Bitcoin hasn't changed. It's a store of value, and it's, that and Ethereum are the blue chip names out there today. And so I think Bitcoin still has really bright prospects. I mean, we think it's going to be at least 20,000 by middle of this year, and probably more than double that by the end of the year.
More than double current levels, or more than double the 20,000?
I think both. I think Bitcoin is still growing its wallets, which is justifying an increase in the network value. But in terms of, if we look at the 50 largest tokens, I think many of those are going to, do significantly better than that. So I think Bitcoin still is a great portfolio diversification for investors, but I think this is the year where you see a lot of altcoins continue to break out.
So I'm going to go back to the question that I asked, which is, so of all the coins, which coins do you see having the greatest return in 2018? Well,
so we have to be a little careful because we're treating these like recommendations. So we've only formally written about Bitcoin, but we've, we are tracking over 700 tokens in our database, and that's how we're compiling these indices.
Right.
And we're tracking a lot of internal momentum, advanced decline. So we have a very structured view of what we're seeing out there, but again, I just have to be careful what we talk about.
Okay. So we talked to one of the creators of Ethereum the other night on Fast Money, and he was talking about the uses for the Ethereum platform, that a lot of fintech, for instance, a lot of companies out there are actually building things on the Ethereum platform, that it's got that's got a utility backing the value of the coin. Does that matter? I mean, what is Bitcoin's utility? Is Ethereum superior to Bitcoin because it has that functional utility versus being a store value?
I mean, there's a lot of fundamental differences between the two, because Bitcoin has a money supply, so it's a fixed number of tokens, and it's proof of work, and Ethereum could be proof of stake. I think it's a lot like GSM and CDMA. So back in the early wireless days, GSM was the universal cellular system, but it was very simple. It was TDMA based. Qualcomm developed a much more complicated platform, which ultimately ended up being really robust. I think Ethereum is a really amazing platform, but it's extremely difficult to program for. So I think there's room for both.
Tom, so I think earlier in the fall you talked about obviously allocating a certain percentage of investable capital to this space. Where does Bitcoin fit in your total allocation? Has that changed a bit because you're expecting lower returns? Like if you were to just say that if you were somebody at home and you're going to put money into it, what percentage of it should be Bitcoin?
Well, I think for an investor who's new to the space, Bitcoin and Ethereum should be the bulk of their allocation because they're blue chip names and they're going to get institutional support. Let's not forget, the only futures you can buy are Bitcoin. But for those who have spent some time, and I think, if someone dedicates time, they're going to find a lot of opportunities. And if they're a lot more flexible, then, of course, their percentage to Bitcoin and Ethereum, even to the top 10, should be a lot smaller. So I think it's really going to be an evolution of the risk appetite of the investor.
But the bottom line is that you think still that Bitcoin will be the best performing, Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum will be the best performing assets for 2018.
Yeah, so let's say that they represent 60% of the blockchain capitalization. So I think blockchain will easily beat equities this year.
Easily, okay.
But I also think Bitcoin and Ethereum individually will beat equities this year. So that means the aggregate blockchain should do a lot better.
Tom, good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Tom Lee, Unstrapped. Bina Jarian, your thoughts?
I think it's all about risk appetite, and I think you were addressing this the other night. It's a matter of, and Tom did as well, but it's a matter of how much, first of all, of your entire portfolio, and second of all, within all of these various coins, how much and how do you want to allocate it across, and where do you think some of the biggest gains are? I think 5% or less is probably the smartest way to be involved in this personally.
Still ahead, want to make crypto-like returns without as much risk? Well, Dan Nathan's got a way to do it, and he's going to show us how later in the show. Plus, it is Guy's time to shine. He's made his way over to the plasma, warming up to pitch the one stock he says could be a home run for investors this earnings season. The name and much more when Fast Money returns.
Duncan just protected his family with a $500,000 life insurance policy. How much do you think it cost him? $100 a month? $75? $50? Actually, Duncan got his $500,000 for under $28 a month, less than $1 a day. His secret? SelectQuote. In just minutes, a SelectQuote agent will comparison shop nearly a dozen highly rated life insurance companies and give you a choice of your 5 best rates. Duncan's wife, Cassie, got a $750,000 policy for under $21 a month. Give your family the security it needs at a price you can afford. Since 1985, SelectQuote has saved